Well, there's alarm across the Atlantic at the troubles in the Eurozone, with the US especially worried in the run-up to a presidential election later this year. Let's get more on this. Joining us from Washington is Ed Harrison from the finance and economics website Credit Write-Downs. Ed, so just spell out for us very simply, what is it that President Obama wants Europe to do, in particular Angela Merkel?
He wants Europe to put the crisis behind it once and for all, to do something definitive in terms of arresting the continual crises between the bailouts of the three countries that we've had, and now this continual sort of escalation to Italy and Spain.
But, you know, we've had Timothy Geithner, the US Treasury Secretary, say similar things in the past few months, get your act together. But what exactly is it that they want to see the Europeans do? I mean, do they want them to see an expansion of the firewall, which perhaps might suggest that the United States would have to put more money in through the IMF, or what?
Well, it's not clear what the administration wants, but obviously it's the election cycle which is driving things at this point, because we're having an election. It's going to be fairly close, and the Obama administration needs to be able to say that it has done a very good job on the economic front, and having the crisis in Europe is going to have an impact on the American economy, and therefore they're very worried about what that means in terms of the electoral chances. But in terms of actually what concretely can be done, obviously what needs to be done is a movement toward a more integrated Europe in which these sorts of problems in terms of current account imbalances, in terms of excessive private sector debt are dealt with in a way in which you have some sort of transfer mechanism, the way that you have in the UK and in the US.
Okay, well, you spot that out. Obviously, a downturn in the European Union would have an impact on the global economy, which in turn would have an impact on the United States. But how far is America taking a kind of dual-pronged attack? On the one hand, trying to shield itself from the financial turmoil in Europe, but also actively trying to do something about it, perhaps, for instance, by buying up Spanish debt, for instance?
Well, you know, there's been a lot of talk about that. There's a considerable worry in the United States about what's happening. And those people who feel that the Federal Reserve has not done enough in the U.S., who feel that the recovery is still at stall speed in the United States, are very fearful of what's happening in Europe. And there's been talk about actually having the Federal Reserve go in and buy up Spanish debt, or go in and buy up Italian debt, intervene actively, because they feel that the ECB is not up to the task, they don't have the mandate, and they're unwilling to do what's necessary. There's been a lot of talk about Germany not leading, and that if they're not going to lead, then somehow the United States has to step in. I mean, that sort of rhetoric, I think, is not necessarily helpful, but that's really the state of panic in certain sections of the policy-making group.
Okay, Ed, thanks very much indeed. Edward Harrison there from Washington.